content specialist here at Troy. I hope you're doing well from wherever you're watching this from. These LinkedIn Live interviews are a brand new series that Troy has launched this past December. There's going to be plenty more where this came from. The mission is to talk with as many members of our Troy team as we can, from product managers to department directors to sales managers, even presidents, vice presidents, to give our audience a better understanding of the exciting things we're doing in the world of document security and just our company initiatives. If you missed our past few interviews, you can find them by scrolling through our LinkedIn feed or going straight to our YouTube channel. But today, I'm very excited because I'm talking with someone who knows a lot about the industry, our enterprise sales manager, Brooke Turner. Brooke, how are you doing today?
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. You're all the way in Florida, right?
That's right. Still
That's
cold though,
right.
surprisingly.
Yeah, it's not any better up here in Pittsburgh. It just keeps getting worse. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time today. I want to ask you a couple questions, but before we get into it, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what it means to be an enterprise sales manager at Troy.
Sure. So I've spent about 15 years, Nathan, in the BTA industry now, working with major OEMs and resellers that are currently our partners. So this was a great transition into the micro and secure printing space. As a enterprise sales manager, my main goal is to assist our partners and various customers to proactively or reactively solve really today's increasing document fraud.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is increasing, and especially in check fraud. Um, 2022, I think it rose from like 380,000 to 680,000 from
That's right.
2021 to 2022. So it keeps going up. But based off of that, when you say clients, customers, what industries are you most commonly working with?
So, through our partners or directly with our customers, obviously, financial is a big one, right, inside of this niche. So, we're talking banks, credit unions, insurance companies is a very large sector. Any organization that has an AR AP department, or alternatively in the non-micro space, just in the secure printing space, a lot of government, healthcare. It's surprisingly expansive, considering the niche market we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. When you say banking, financial industries, those sectors, um, they obviously know a lot about MICR. But do you hear a lot of questions about MICR still?
Absolutely. Questions really depends on the customer, right? So if we talk about our partners who are solving business problems for their direct customers, their knowledge on the microspace is limited, Nathan. Same as mine was in the BTA industry. The major questions are really why using a Troy secure solution over the competition. We discuss how easy it is to scrape and wash certain types of substrates or clones or remanufactured toners. Those are really common paper types. Of course, there are a lot of misconceptions if you're not a subject matter expert in this space. As for direct organizations, they generally have a full department that handles nothing but vulnerabilities within the organization. They speak at a different level regarding endpoint protections, internal fraud, chemical reactions. So, the questions are definitely going to defer depending on which partner we're speaking with.
Wow. Okay. So the whole department's dedicated to fraud. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. And you mentioned misconceptions there, and being, Troy being the MICR experts in a sense. What kind of misconceptions do you hear?
A lot of the same ones that I had before I walked into this space. I would say the most common is that micro means secure printing. It absolutely does not. Micro stands for magnetic ink character recognition, which just means the toner or the ink needs to be magnetic to be read by a check scanner and produce a cash instrument, right? To say all micro is the same is like saying all cars are the same. Some organizations are tasked with limiting expenses, and unfortunately, most of the fraud is reactively resolved for these clients. So, I mean, these all go into the misconceptions that it's very similar. Really, they're mostly cases of simply using the wrong types of toner or printers that are easily washed or scraped. The devices themselves need to be protected from insider fraud, which unfortunately occurs. So only specific admin are given rights or keys to access check printing. Essentially you're printing money, so it's important to be as compliant as possible. And those misconceptions are really what get organizations in trouble.
Right. And if MICR was secure, then your check fraud essentially wouldn't exist.
Correct.
So those kinds of that kind of fraud, check washing, is that the main kind of fraud you're seeing, the main kind of technique, or are there other trends that you're seeing emerging, or used to be a big thing and are now coming back? What trends are you seeing that are kind of particularly concerning?
As we touched on just a minute ago, check fraud is essentially on the rise, right? It's through the roof. It is pretty scary. Check washing is still the number one culprit, I would say, to where basically what you're doing is you're just taking the name and the dollar amount, you're washing those off with, a chemical compound and putting in something new. You can't go a week without reading another news article on a major organization that has their reputation at stake now because of the increase in fraud. The reality is it's all kinds of fraud are on the rise, particularly electronic, right? Because you have an international reach there. So check fraud and washing, that's condensed down to a local geographic area. So, paper documents are really still the least vulnerable. As salespeople, we have a tendency to want to show our clients that, we can change the world with a new platform or a new software program that's going to solve their problems. And, sometimes it's overly complicated. We really need to understand our customers and understand that most, believe it or not, don't have a check elimination strategy. They don't have time, funding, or training initiatives to implement new programs. You don't need to change the way you do business, just change your printer. And when the time comes where a check elimination strategy is relevant for that customer, we have solutions for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you said, not every company is going to have a check elimination strategy. It's just going to be easier for them. I mean, virtually any company is going to take a check. I think something like 80% of businesses are still using checks in their everyday B2B transactions. So it's even though there is electronic payments getting more popular, it's checks are still the most used, the most secure. But you said something interesting earlier about the reputations on the line when fraud occurs. But when that fraud does occur, who is liable for the fraud? Is it the bank?
That's a great question, Nathan. And it's also not a simple answer. So, we're talking about businesses here, and most are under the assumption that the FDIC automatically covers their business when there's fraud. That's not correct. And not to dive too deep here, but the UCC has developed a very vague guideline for accountability in situations like this, and it's called ordinary care. So if an organization doesn't show a level of ordinary care, they can be held responsible for some, if not all, of the fraud that occurs. Unfortunately, each state adopts their own guidelines for this. So, there are very simple solutions to prevent check fraud. No matter how much money, you saved going with inexpensive cartridges or printers, there will ultimately be a cost, and at this point, what's going on in the world, it's not an if, it's a when your organization will be targeted. So, even if the fraud that can occur is covered by the FDIC, you could still pay the price with reputation, time consumption internally to reactively solve those problems. Nevertheless, if there's a contribution to the negligence, that could hold you financially responsible as well. So there isn't a straight answer, and each state is going to adopt their own version of what they thought the UCC meant by that. And the larger the dollar amount is of the fraud, the more of an investigation to see whether or not you're going to be partially responsible for that.
Wow. So there's a lot at stake, is what
There
you're
is.
saying, right? So we've talked a lot about MICR, we've talked a lot about fraud and check fraud techniques, but we can talk about Troy's solution to check fraud, which incorporates secure microtoner, our patented product Microtoner Secure, which releases a red dye whenever check washing is attempted on a check. We also have Troy HP printers that are designed and enhanced for MICR security. What would you say in your role at the company as an enterprise sales manager, what the biggest advantage to choosing a Troy security solution is.
You hit them both high level, which is great. Troy is literally the only organization that can prevent and eliminate check fraud, period. So this is both with insider risk relating to the security of our devices, external check washing and scraping, and network endpoint protection. So most notably, as you just commented on, is our patented chemically reactive dye. So, for people that don't know, that makes the substrate actually bleed red if an alteration is attempted. It can no longer be used as a cash instrument. So we are the only organization in the world that has that technology. And, financial criminals absolutely hate Troy, and we love that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the things we can do to prevent check fraud is really unlike any other corporation. I mean, Microtoner Secure is literally the world's most fraud resistant toner. So, it's a huge advantage there, as well as the Troy HP enhanced printers. But if there's anything else that you'd like to touch on before we let you go here, I'll let you take the floor.
I think we're good to go. I do appreciate the invite. Happy New Year's to you. And if
Yeah,
there's some
Happy New
additional
Year.
questions in the future, I'd love the opportunity to come back and speak to them.
Absolutely. I thank everyone for watching. I thank Brooke for joining us today. You can watch this on our YouTube channel. Like I said in the beginning, you can also go to our LinkedIn feed and scroll through our posts and you can watch it again. You also have Brooke's LinkedIn right at the top left corner there. So you can follow her on LinkedIn just by scanning that QR code. But thank you everyone for watching. Stay tuned for the next Troy LinkedIn Live. My name is Nate Cross. This has been Brooke Turner. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Nathan.